Meanwhile, one of the potential landing spots we've repeatedly heard regarding Tony Romo is Mile High. We've even heard folks make the case he could be Denver's new Peyton Manning. Well, John Elway so far has dismissed the possibility of getting Romo and reaffirmed his confidence in his two current quarterbacks. The Texans also have been talking about Texans as a possible landing spot for Romo. According to our Adam Schefter, Fox Sports is interested in hiring Romo as an analyst for the network, and other networks probably would be interested in hiring the Cowboys quarterback for a TV job. On that note, we welcome in our friend. So good to see you.
Same.
Braving the elements to be here. Damian Woody, we appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And I know Stephen A. and Max are excited that you're here with
Yeah,
us.
they're excited for this butt. They're excited for this butt kicking.
That's what I'm talking about.
What you doing? I don't like the bass in your voice, big boy. I mean, I just don't like what you think you big and bad just because you rolled up in Bristol in the snow. So what? So what?
I see you stayed at home instead of seeing me right here on set. That's the deal right there. White, come see me.
That's a good answer.
Come see me.
That's a good answer.
Stephen A. has a good point. Shouldn't you be hibernating somewhere?
I hibernate most of the year, but when it's time to come on here and blaze both of y'all, it's that time.
You want to know what? We're blue collar.
Bring it, big boy.
We're the blue collars. We're the workers. Those two are the white collars.
We ain't on a football field, big boy. I ain't scared of you. I ain't scared. Let's go.
All right, let's do it then.
All right, so as we just mentioned with Tony Romo, obviously right now it seems John Elway not that interested, but the silver lining is that he does have options. Stephen A., let's start with you here. Where would you like to see him land? The Texans, the Broncos, or join a television network?
Oh, that's an easy one, television. I mean, that ain't hard. I mean, you're 36 years old. I mean, you got everything from a bad pinky to a bad back to a collarbone injury and Lord knows what else. I mean, why not get in a TV? It's long range, it's healthy, it gives you an opportunity to go home and spend time with your kids, even hang out with Jerry in his suite while he's watching his grandson play. I mean, all of these things are things that are potentially out there for Tony Romo while he can still net millions, because we all know, how could you not love Tony Romo? I mean, Jerry Jones loves him, and if Jerry Jones loves him, chances are the NFL loves him, and if the NFL loves him, chances are some executive for a television network loves him. That just seems to be the way it works for quarterbacks in the National Football League, former and otherwise. So we have to take that into consideration. Then we have to dissect the teams, okay? The bottom line is this. Whether it's A.J. Bouye, whether it's Simon or Demps, you've got Houston. They lost dudes in free agency because they don't have but so much cap space to work with, plus they're in need of a quarterback. But again, they lost those guys, and they don't know what they have as a team. I don't consider Houston a championship team. I think they're a team that can get back to the players, but championship contender, legitimately,
know why?
I don't view them as that. Hold on, I'm not finished. Hold it. Then you got the Texans. So you got the Texans out of the way. Now we get to the Broncos. We look at the Broncos. You got Ronald Leary as an offensive lineman. Of course, you wanted to make sure that you restructured some deals in that regard. But I'm looking at Russell Okung. He decides to take the Chargers. I'm looking at Calais Campbell. He decides to go to the Jaguars. There are legitimate questions as to what direction Denver's going in. So if you got questions in Denver, and you got questions in Houston, and you got questions about Tony Romo's health, what resolves the issue? A television job where you can actually get paid not only for doing, I mean, you could get paid, you got paid last year for doing nothing. This time you'd get paid for not exposing yourself to any physical violence and just talking about the game. Better to talk to the camera with millions of watching than talking to your headsets when everybody knows nobody cares what you have to say. They really care about you on the football field, but you're too damn injured to be there. There's nothing to talk about here. Tony Romo in television.
Know why Houston's not a Super Bowl contender, Stephen A.?
A bevy of reasons, not just the quarterback.
No quarterback. No quarterback. Their offensive line's a lot better than Denver. First of all, the answer is the Houston Texans. Retirement, I understand it's a full contact sport. He's injury prone. Whatever health he has left, get out and make money. I understand that. That job will be waiting for him later. It's there if he wants it. If the TV job is there for him now, it will be there for him later. But what he probably wants to do more than that is shut people like Stephen A. Smith up who say he's no good in the playoffs. I mean, here's a chance to prove otherwise. In the state of Texas, going at the Cowboys, who replaced him with a younger guy in the end, whatever the relationship is between Romo and Jerry Jones, that'll get your competitive juices flowing. They replaced you with a younger guy when you still thought you could play. In state, going at the Cowboys for the first time, making real inroads to their fan base, if you're able to make a playoff run. And why wouldn't he be able to make a playoff run? You mentioned the things that Houston doesn't have. Do they still have Lamar Miller? Do they still have DeAndre Hopkins? Do they still have a better offensive line than they do in Denver? Do they still have Clowney with Watt coming back? You're going to add J.J. Watt to that defense that we just saw toward the end of the year, probably the best defense overall in the NFL last year. You're going to add J.J. Watt to that and then give him a quarterback? Now, I don't think Romo can stay on the field for a whole season, but if he can stay on the field enough, and even without Romo, we saw when they can get to the playoffs, if he can just be healthy when the playoffs roll around, you add a ready-to-go Tony Romo to that Houston team, you may have a Super Bowl winner, and then he can get out of the game having accomplished everything he wanted. Denver's offensive line doesn't do that for him, plus the weather's no good, especially compared to Houston in a dome. For every reason in the world, the Houston Texans make the most sense for Tony Romo among those three options if he's actually leaving Dallas.
Well, look, my feeling is he should retire. I've been saying this. I think Tony Romo should retire. We talk about adding Tony Romo to the Houston Texans. Yeah, they will become a better team. But ultimately, they're going to run into the roadblock, which is the New England Patriots. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that they've really loaded up for another run with Tom Brady in this closed window right here.
So I think
to me, it's still all about the New England Patriots. But for me, when I talk about Tony Romo, I talk about the injuries and the long-term effects of those injuries. You have a guy who's had 2 back surgeries. Anyone who's played professional sports know that when you deal with your back, you are never, ever the same type of athlete again. He's never going to play behind the offensive line that he had in Dallas, and he couldn't stay healthy behind that offensive line. So now you're talking about taking Tony Romo, put him with the Houston Texans, they have weapons, they have a defense, but he can't do the one thing that coaches always ask of their players first and foremost: stay on the field. The guy cannot stay on the field at all. So if you're the Houston Texans, you add Tony Romo, what you going to get him for? 12, 13 games maybe? Is that going to be enough to beat the New England Patriots and go into the Super Bowl? I don't feel that way. Listen, I always said the game of football is like a vapor. It's here one day, it's gone the next. You still have the rest of your life to live. And that's what I worry about with a guy like Tony Romo, who's as competitive as they come. He goes out there, suffers another injury. Your quality of life down the road is just going down the tank. So if I'm Tony Romo right now, I'm going to the booth. You can stay close to the game, be involved in the game, but not having all the contact.
Well, Damian, here's my problem, Molly, with Damian's comments. First of all, when you speak, Damian Woody, the first thing you need to say, the first words that need to come out your mouth, big boy, is, yo, Stephen A., I agree with you.
No,
Damn it, that's what you just did.
You would never hear me say that. You would never hear me say that.
That's what you just did. It's okay.
No,
it's okay.
you would never hear me say that.
I know it hurts. But I get it. It hurts your feelings to concede that you agree with me. It's all right, big boy. It's okay.
No, you just gave some long-winded answer. That's all. You can get some long-winded answer trying to cover everything.
Here's the deal.
Don't let him gas you, Damian.
No, mind your business.
Mind your mix waffling, Kellerman. Mind your business.
The other day, I mentioned his back. You said I wasn't a doctor. You said you need to be a doctor, apparently, for Stephen A. Smith if you bring up an injury to someone's back.
There you go. Here's the deal. Houston was the #1 team defensively in yards allowed and #2 against the pass. That is true. They were number 12th against the rush, number 11 defensively overall. But you know what bothers me about everybody talks about the Houston Texans? And Damian, help me out here. What bothers me is nobody brings this up when they talk about Houston's defense. Last 6 games of the year, after playing Green Bay on December 4th, they played Indy, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Tennessee. They lost that game.
They lost that game. The teams that's on your schedule, Stephen A. What are you talking about?
Guys, we got to get to break in a minute.
I'm only bringing it up to say we're making so much noise about their defense, but we need to think about the offenses they played against. That's all I'm saying.
All right, we got to leave it there. We have another Cowboys discussion I can't wait to get with you in just a moment. You'll be back with us, Damian. Always good to see you. Thanks for putting up with those two. Coming up, Ezekiel Elliott is finding himself in some hot water today after a scandalous video hit good old TMZ. Should the Cowboys discipline him? As I just mentioned, Damian will be back with us for his take on that. And Lonzo can ball, but is his father's hype going to get in the way now that it's a win-or-go-home situation for UCLA? Jay Billis will join us to discuss as a part of ESPN's 24-hour Tournament Challenge Marathon.